Hello, good evening. Welcome to Anglia Late Edition after another busy week here at Westminster. Coming up tonight.
Will you resign, Prime Minister?
The Starmer drama continues. Could we be heading for the 7th Prime Minister in less than a decade? It was terrible local election results that triggered this latest crisis. They were also bad for the Tories while Reform UK was celebrating. All that overshadowing a King's speech that was supposed to get the government back on track. Joining us to talk about all of that are Mike Reeder, a Northampton MP who was one of the new intake in the Labour landslide. Richard Fuller from Bedfordshire is the Conservative Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. And from Reform UK, their local government chief and Essex councillor Jamie McIver. A week's a long time in politics is what a past Prime Minister once said, and that's proving to be the case for our current one. Ministerial resignations, including the Health Secretary, and more than 90 Labour MPs are calling on Keir Starmer to step down or set a date for his departure. Amongst them, 8 from our region, 6 of those from the 2024 intake, as well as 2 who've been MPs for much longer.
I think Keir needs to set out a timetable and a deadline for himself for when he is going to prove to us in the party and prove to the country that he actually means what he says and that what he stands for is the sort of change that the country wants to see. If he can't deliver that, then he needs to deliver a timeline for actually leaving.
He is the most unpopular Prime Minister in British political history, and I think that was borne out by the conversations I had on the doors that I knocked on. And it just feels that it's over for him.
Well, let's talk to our guests now. First of all, to you, Mike. You saw your colleagues talking there. What do you think? Should the Prime Minister stay or go?
I think Keir's got a chance now to deliver on this King's speech, which is really exciting for our region. Much more support for energy infrastructure, for sorting out our water systems, making sure that we continue the reforms to the NHS to keep cutting waiting lists. And particularly one thing that I'm really excited about actually is the work on supporting small businesses, particularly payment times.
And do you think he can stay in the job after what we've seen this week? Do you think he will stay in the job?
I think Keir's been very clear that he is going to stay and prove to the country that he can deliver. You know, we transformed much of the public service sector in the first 2 years of our government, so the legislation that's come through will change people's lives in our region. And he's now got he now needs to go on and deliver on that second King's speech.
And what do you say to those colleagues of yours then from our region, some of them elected on the same day as you just under 2 years ago, who say he should go? People like Sam Carling, Ben Goldsborough, Terry Jeremy all came in on the Labour landslide. What do you say to them when they say he's not got the vision for the future?
I mean, there are a lot of conversations that go on these things. My view is that we handle things professionally and in private. I'm not going to put out a statement of my position either way. I'm here to work on behalf of the constituents of Northampton South, on behalf of our region. And I've had conversations with those who support Keir and those who are calling him to leave. What's important and what people all recognise across the Parliamentary Labour Party is we have to lean in and deliver for the country and not let the Westminster psychodrama take over the news cycle.
Is there any way he could lead the party into the next general election?
I'd like to see it. I think it's for Keir now to prove that he can deliver on what we've set out in the King's speech.
Richard, I mean, the Conservative Party changed leader numerous times. It didn't work out so well for you, did it?
Well, you started off by saying that a week is a long time in politics, and this is a week of 3 halves. On the first day, Keir Starmer tried to reassert his leadership. It was the same wooden, out-of-touch performance. That didn't work. The next day, we had a King's speech. Nobody took it seriously. Nobody's taking it seriously because we don't know if the person who wrote it is going to be around to implement it. And today, we have the resignation from Wes Streeting, and we still aren't at the end of the week. So this drama, the Starmer drama that you talk about, still has a long way to go, and that is bad for the country. And it is fair to say it was bad when that happened on the Conservatives too.
And Jamie, you guys at Reform must be looking at this with relish because, of course, you fought a local election campaign where you said to voters you wanted to get Keir Starmer out, and it feels like the Labour Party might be about to do that themselves.
Well, of course, the country have spoken. There is absolute disdain for not just Keir Starmer, but the entire Labour government. I think the country feels extremely let down, and it's very interesting listening to Labour MPs that, want Keir Starmer to stay, because I would imagine it's a huge honour to serve as a Member of Parliament, but if Keir Starmer remains as Prime Minister and takes the Labour Party into the next general election, they're almost guaranteed not to be Members of Parliament at the outcome of that general election. But I think it's very important is, from Reform's perspective, is we were doing exceptionally well long before the true colours of Keir Starmer and this Labour government came to fruition. We had a huge landslide success last year in the local elections. This year we've done incredibly well. We have over 2,500 councillors now. We control councils across the country, and indeed we are with a very proud record in local government, so much so the British people renewed it.
We'll come to that in a moment. Would you rather see Keir Starmer staying the job then if he's the easier opponent, do you think, for Nigel Farage?
I'd like to see a general election. I don't want another Labour Prime Minister destroying this gorgeous country. This is the best country in the world, and for as long as Labour are in office, people in our region are going to suffer. The cost of living crisis is getting worse, small businesses are struggling, and people are losing hope. Reform UK gives people hope, so the sooner Labour are out, the better. The sooner we have a general election, the better.
I mean, he is very unpopular, isn't he, Keir Starmer? Did you find that last year? I know you've not had local elections this year in Northamptonshire, but colleagues of yours across the region say they went out on the doorstep and people just do not like him.
So I campaigned in Milton Keynes for the last elections. And obviously, as you say, we had elections in Northamptonshire a year ago where the Conservative vote disappeared to Reform. And we've seen that repeated again across the region. Conservative voters moving to essentially the new Conservatives, the Reform Party. But the centre and the left vote, the progressive vote, still split amongst a number of different parties. And that's kind of what I felt within Milton Keynes, where I was campaigning, that people were looking to the Labour Party for leadership, looking for us to deliver. And, we hadn't quite got there yet. But there was plenty of conversation where people were saying, look, I might vote somewhere else this time. Come a general election, of course I'm going to vote for Labour, because what we have to do, we have to stop Nigel Farage. We have to stop Nigel Farage being the Prime Minister, one of the most dishonest politicians we've had in a long time, a man who's lied and lied and lied repeatedly, whether it was about cutting council tax or now the £5 million bung he got from his mate. He told everyone he was going to spend it on security. It turns out today he spent it on a £1.4 million house.
Well, we'll come to James
I
to
believe
respond
that
to that.
transaction. Well, I believe that transaction was done long before the donation happened. And on the point of council tax, it's Labour politicians spouting nonsense like that, which is why I believe we walked into a landslide. And I have to say, the Conservative Party didn't paint themselves in glory either. Reform UK inherited some horrific finances from those councils. We've turned them around, and Reform UK's council tax rises are the lowest by far compared with any other political party. I'm exceptionally proud of Reform UK's local government activity.
Well, it
is actually true.
No,
It is. Unfortunately for you two, it is
true.
true.
In Northamptonshire who are now paying to go to the shops the weekend. Reform charging disabled people to park in our town centre, reducing bin collections to 3 times a week rather than twice.
The British people just renewed
Let's
the
come to the
Reform
local
UK.
elections a minute. Just finally from Richard on this, do you think Keir Starmer can stay in his job for longer than the next few days or weeks?
Well, he certainly can. I think governing is hard. I mean, let's give credit to someone who wants to be Prime Minister. Governing is hard to do. And there is a task here. I mean, there are parties out there, like the Greens and Reform, that play on despair. They want people to feel frustrated. What we need in this country is stable government, but also government that is connected to the people. And on that last dimension, I'm afraid that's the weakness of Keir Starmer.
Well, of course, all of this kicked off because of those local election results last week. In the Anglia region, Reform won the most council seats, 281 in total, with the Liberal Democrats securing 148 and the Greens on 52. But it's the ups and downs that really tell the story. Massive gains by Reform, the Conservatives down by 145 councillors, and Labour losing 100.
We need to be working and get those synergies going to deliver the best for the people of East Anglia.
Essentially, people like myself are stepping forward so we can be part of that change.
We're seeing a changing of the guard across the country. The two-party state is finished.
Conservatives know how to run things, and they know how to run things well. We'll now see if Reform can do the same.
The Conservatives have not just won all 11, but with enormous majorities across the board.
people are looking for an easy answer. The Greens offer that, Reform offer that. Neither is right. Labour is full of serious politicians.
We are inclusive. We've run a campaign on one city, one community, one people. That's of real value to us. We're working with people who are struggling at the moment, and they want to see that change.
In Norfolk and Suffolk and around the region, we're seeing green progress, green gains, and people responding really well to our strong, positive local record of being really strong champions.
Elections are always exciting, but seriously, people who write about it, like me and historians, will regard this 2026 as a unique changing point in electoral history. It's a big deal in terms of the way we do our politics.
Jamie, Reform, obviously the big winners in our region last week, Essex County Council. Do you think you were elected there, of course? Do you think people in Essex voted because they didn't like the Conservative County Council, or was it other issues?
Absolutely. There's a terrible ignorance coming from the Conservative Party locally and nationally that somehow people didn't know this was a local election. They were all voting on national issues. That is just not the case. If I take my own seat of Anglia, and by the way, may I thank everybody in the region that supported Reform UK, and how proud I am of those councillors that will be serving communities with some of the most important frontline services like social care and of course the highways.
So what I will say do differently in Essex, because of course Essex, one of the few councils that does have a lower than average council tax increase this time round.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we are passionate about is making our services as efficient as possible, and there is lots in Essex that already we're getting on with, but the number one priority, absolutely not. And this is again the scaremongering that we are seeing. What we want to do is make things efficient, and the public want that. We made it very clear that's what we want to do, but already the leader of our council, Councillor Peter Harris, has already written to the government to stop this awful botched up LGR deal that will see Essex be broken up into 5 meaningless units. So already we are taking action.
So is that the number one priority for the new Reform Council in Essex?
It was absolutely the priority from the people of Essex, who do not want their historic county to be broken up. And of course we're going to do some amazing things like we've seen in other Reform Councils. In Derbyshire, no more pothole backlog anymore. We're going to look at all of the amazing work of other Reform Councils and apply it to the great county of Essex, and of course Suffolk, Norfolk and all the other places we now control.
Of course, in Northamptonshire, there are 2 Reform Councils already, and actually what we're seeing there is the potholes are getting worse, aren't they?
I feel like the ghost of Christmas future here. You know, we've had a Reform Council for the year. We've got adult social care requires improvement. We're letting our older people down. We've got children's services. The cabinet member resigned over safeguarding concerns. We've got some of the worst potholes in the country. And on top of that, Reform decided to put people's council tax up and cut their services.
Yeah,
You can't say that it's not based, it's suggestions and it's rumour. It's evidence. We see it in Northamptonshire. Vote Reform, get higher taxes, get worse services.
Yet Northamptonshire has just been nominated as one of the most improved councils in the country. So fortunately, people don't listen to the silly Labour rhetoric, and they vote with the facts and they vote for reform. And we've seen the reform record in local government be scrutinised more than any other political party in the history of local government has been ever scrutinised by the media. And still, despite that, people are overwhelmingly voting Reform UK because people aren't listening to this nonsense.
Richard, this result in our region, Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, not your local councils, but I mean, this was a disastrous result for the Conservatives, wasn't it? These are councils you've controlled for decades.
Yeah, of course. Very, very difficult results, coming off a very high result straight after the vaccine the last time the elections were run. So we were expecting to lose, but it has been a very bad night for us in those councils. Of course, unless they're changed by the national government, we will see elections in those counties again for the shadow authorities next year, and many Conservative colleagues will be back, and we expect to make gains. And we had some very good results this time in terms of Harlow and Milton Keynes. I was in Milton Keynes, we made gains there. And one of the things I noticed on the doorstep was that I asked always about Kemi Badenoch, and people have an impression of her, and they think she's a strong personality and she's clear about her principles. And I think that's a very strong foundation for us for the future.
And yet it still seems that people haven't forgotten the 14 years in government and your disastrous result of the general election, because still pretty much at rock bottom.
It's absolutely true that we have a task to do to regain the trust of the British public. And what Kemi has said is, don't get distracted by all the things that are going on this way. We have to work out clear plans about what we do, learn from our mistakes, and we've been clear about some of those mistakes we made, but also now new policies, a new direction under Kemi Badenoch, and she has the personality with the leadership skills that I think this country is calling for.
And Mike, of course, we've talked about the reform councils, but also the Greens did really well and took votes from Labour in places like Norwich and Suffolk and Cambridge, and actually that's where you're losing votes to the left and the right, aren't you?
Yeah, as I said, when I was in Milton Keynes, people saying I may vote one way in a local and one in a general election. Ultimately, to change the country, it is who is in number 10 and who is in running our great parliament. And so I don't think we can read too much into a local vote in the local elections. I think time will tell. I mean, I think about 2019 to 2024, how much the country moved when I decided to stand and I was told, you know, the seat is extremely marginal to where we're at now. Politics moves very quickly. We see that around the world. So there's still plenty to play for before the next general election, that's for certain.
I presume that's what you'd say as well, Richard.
Well, I think things do change, but the fundamentals remain the same, which is this country needs to get in a situation where we're not living beyond our means in terms of a government, where we are giving hope for young people scared about AI, the impact on jobs. We need to have leadership in this country that can connect to people and, most importantly, do something about the cost of living. And as I said earlier on, I think Kemi has clearly said to us, just keep focused on those issues, keep focused on the people, and we will see the results in due course so that people have the chance to trust us again.
And Jamie, as we go into, you know, a general election could be more than 3 years away, what should voters look at in these new councils that are now run by Reform to see whether they judge whether you fulfil promises?
Well, I sincerely hope for the people of our great region they don't have to wait until 2029 to have a general election. Let's also not forget that last year's elections were cancelled in a wholesale way by the Labour Party and by Tory council leaders. It nearly happened again this year, so everyone got to go to the polls thanks to Nigel Farage and our judicial review. But I think what people want to see, and I think what Reform are giving people, is hope that it's not going to be like this forever. They were promised change with the Labour government. It hasn't happened. They will never forgive the Conservative Party for what they've done, especially in communities like mine near Epping, where we've seen young girls who are now unsafe as a result of open-door immigration.
What changes should voters look for in how these councils are run?
Well, I think what you'll see, and what you're seeing across the country with Reform councils, is the people are put first. Not who gets what position, not who gets to sit on what committee, not who gets to wear the chains and what you've got to do to get there. It's not about all of that rubbish that we're seeing, even actually I think with, sadly, ministers in government at the moment, you know, going early to make sure they get a job in the next cabinet. What we will see is people be put first and their lives be put first. And that is something that politicians across parties have forgotten. It's people that put you in office and you let the people down, they'll never forgive you.
Well, let's move on. All of this has completely overshadowed what should have been the main political event of the week. Yes, the state opening of Parliament and the King's speech outlining all the new laws the government wants to bring in over the next year. Among the 37 bills, there's modernisation of the health service and the scrapping of NHS England, reform of special needs education, energy independence with a focus on nuclear plants like Sizewell, and there's airport expansion for the likes of Luton and Stansted.
The Prime Minister is in office, but not in power. Everyone is trying to pretend it's all right. It's not all right. In the past 48 hours, nearly 100 Labour MPs have called for the Prime Minister to resign.
But we do have one thing in common. Our parties both had tough results in the local elections last week. The difference is, she hasn't noticed.
Mike, we touched on this at the start of the programme, but a lot in there. What's the best thing about this, would you say, for people in your constituency? And will any of this make people start to feel better off?
Yeah, if I was going to pick three, I would start, as I said, with support for small businesses. When I go out and speak to businesses across Northamptonshire, and actually tomorrow I'm doing an event with my Chamber of Commerce, I hear about payment being a big issue, and the proposals to require mandatory payment in 60 days and mandatory interest, I think, will really help our small business community. I think a lot of the work that's going to come forward on improving energy resilience. We are a county that really struggles. I look around Northamptonshire, and I'm sure people do across the region, and you look at warehouses that we could have solar on, but there's just not the energy capacity to connect that solar into the network. So I think energy resilience, energy and security is going to be really positive for changing our communities. And then thirdly, social housing. There's a big bill coming forward to change the way we deliver social housing, to unlock it, and also change the way right to buy works, so we make sure we keep social housing long term in our region.
Richard, it might be overshadowed, but what's good in it, do you think, for...
Well, I'm just shocked that Labour talk about small business. They have clobbered small business. They have racked up with the jobs tax the cost of employing people. They're drowning them with new regulation from day one, and the business rates for our small businesses have gone through the roof. Labour can have this little thing they want, look, it's important on late payments, but they've got to deal with the fundamentals, which is small businesses, particularly those in hospitality, are being weighed down and pushed out of business by Rachel Reeves and her policies. And one thing that should have been in this bill that isn't, no mention of welfare reform, no mention of reductions in welfare. That's a big miss by this government and a big miss from what the British public were talking about on the doorstep when I was knocking on doors last week.
Well, let's talk about the evidence, though. Yeah, we got the highest growth in the G7, and what's the primary driver of that? It's retail growth, it's small businesses. So the evidence we've seen today proves the plan is working. We're going to have the Conservatives talking down our country, but actually we've got to look at a long-term plan, which is what Labour is delivering.
Or you could just walk down any high street in the region and see that actually businesses are being clobbered. I think I'll agree with you on that. But what really worries me, we've heard from two politicians from the biggest parties in Westminster. Neither have spoken about illegal immigration, which is destroying this country, is making women unsafe, is seeing our high streets become dangerous. And
there is a migration bill in there as well, isn't there?
Well, of course it's there, but no one wants to talk about it because unfortunately it's not an ideological priority for this Labour government, which is why we saw the 200,000th illegal migrant cross the Channel. What we have got in this country is a national security emergency when it comes to the fact we don't have any borders. Immigration is totally out of control, and that is the #1 issue for people in our region, and the representatives of this region are not talking about it, with the exception of Reform UK, and I think that is a big reason why we're doing so well.
Mike, to you, I mean, the Labour Party do seem to talk about migration a lot.
Yeah, and we're doing great work on it. But I think immigration,
What's the great work?
Immigration can be seen as a bit of a scapegoat to what actually people feel in their communities. They see change happening very quickly. They do see their high streets destroyed. Northamptonshire, under the Tories for successive councils, the high street was ripped apart, only now slowly coming back together under this Labour government. And what people want to see is they're part of that change of their community. And things like the Pride in Place funding the government's put forward, £20 million in different deprived areas across our region, brings people back into that community, that conversation about how do they shape their community for the better. And the more we can do that through devolution and through engaging with the communities, the more we bring people back together as one great region and as one great Britain.
Just about to go, just quickly from all of you, do you think the Prime Minister will still be in his job, I don't know, this time, next month?
Yes.
Right.
Forget the Prime Minister, think about the King. He's made 2 speeches to 2 legislatures and he's done fantastic in both of them.
Yeah.
Jamie?
I sincerely hope not.
Thank you to all of you for coming in tonight. That's all we've got time for tonight. Thanks for everyone for coming in. Anglia Late Edition is back again next month. The programme's always available on ITVX. From all of us here, though, thank you for watching and a very good night.